Hello everyone, welcome back to the shop. Got a little bit of a shop organization build for you today. But first I want to promise that I will get back to building the bench and probably release those videos at the same time that I'm doing the pre-sale for the vise. It all kind of goes together. In the meantime, I've got some other stuff that I can work on to keep me busy. Specifically, I want to get rid of this thing. Now this monstrosity was great when I had stuff spread out all over the floor of my shop. This is essentially floor space, five levels high. It made a big difference early on, but really this is not such a great thing. A 4x8 sheet, if you have something stored in the middle, it's not easy to get to. It takes up a ton of room. It gets in the way of my welding setup, so it really needs to go away. That's going to be a long-term project. But this wall space over here is not going to be drywalled. About half the shop's going to be drywalled, but this isn't, which means that if I put some effort into a nice hanging tool storage area, it never has to come down because this is always going to be unfinished even in the ultimate final design of the shop. So it's a perfect spot to put a tool wall up with the bench right here, grab a tool off the wall, very conveniently placed, and it's big enough that I can just hang a 4x8 sheet without even cutting it. So perfect if you're lazy like me. And it also gave me the opportunity to break out this little guy that I got for Christmas. Some tools like this one, it's nice to have handy, not in a drawer, on a wall, but finding a good pegboard solution is not always easy. And you could fabricate something up, but it occurred to me that 3D printing is kind of a really good way to build a custom holder for a tool like that, and it gives me the opportunity to break out the Christmas present. So that's the plan, and I'm really already halfway through, but if I'd done this intro before I got started, I'd say let's get to it.
So I drill holes in the foundation wall with a rotary hammer and install the concrete anchors, and then I transfer the holes that I drilled into the plywood onto a 2x4, so with a level clamp to that 2x4 I can really make sure that I get it level. And then I just anchor the plywood to the foundation wall. Now it's hard to get the bolts exactly at the right depth, so I cut off the excess ends because I'm going to 3D print some caps. Now this is kind of a silly aesthetic thing to do, but I went ahead and tried it. This was actually the first thing I printed. So it was just kind of a warm-up. Now I modeled all of this in SketchUp. I'm not going to get too deep into what I think of my printer, what kind of printer I have, the filament, what software I use, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to have a follow-up video where I talk about my experience getting started in 3D printing, where I'll cover all that. But for now, I'm just kind of showing off the results. And now it's time to print that holder for the marking gauge that I mentioned in the beginning of the video.
I'm partway done with this time lapse, and I think I'm realizing that it's not going to be very good because the table moves for one of the horizontal axes, which means that in the time lapse, everything's going to be moving around, not just the printer head. What you really want is the base to be stationary and just the printer head moving, so that you can just see the thing growing from the ground up. But I actually think it's just going to be a blurry mess until it's finished, but we'll see.
Yes, as expected, not the greatest time lapse in the world. I think it's easier to build and design a 3D printer with the base moving for the y-axis, but it makes for worse time lapse. What can you do? And I was actually a little worried at how flimsy this turned out. I wished I had made it so that it wasn't quite so easy to snap like that. With 3D printing, it's pretty easy to modify the file, make it a little beefier. I also eliminated some spaces that were just wasted filament and printed a new one. And this one's a lot more solid in the places that it needs to be, while not using any more filament than the first one. And with that under my belt, I decided to try something a little bit more ambitious to hold my lathe tools, which are a lot heavier. So I worked this up in SketchUp and printed out 6 of them. Also, a quick pro tip from a total rookie: if you have a countersink printed into your 3D printed thing, you can clean it up by using the fact that the PLA obviously melts if it gets hot, and just spin the screw around until it melts into the point where it's perfectly flush. So I printed 6 of these from my 6 tools that I've had for 3 years and can now finally have a good place to put them.
I think the audio's fixed. I've been having interference with my wireless mic. I think I've got it sorted out. I guess every once in a while with those things you have to do like a scan search to see which frequencies are not, I don't know, jammed up with interference. I was clearly getting some perpendicular crosstalk, a little coaxial fly. I don't know what I'm talking about. But I think it sounds better.